If you've ever felt unstoppable at night, only to feel completely defeated by morning, this story is for you. Stay with me to the end, and you'll leave with a simple system that turns tiny daily promises into life-changing results. And if you want more stories that help you build real discipline, not just fleeting motivation, subscribe now so you don't miss what's next. We all want to become something more. We all dream of doing something great, but most of us try to build our lives with fireworks, bright, loud, and gone in seconds. That's what motivation feels like. Exciting, but temporary. Discipline is different. It's the brick you lay today and tomorrow and the day after that. Bricks aren't flashy, but they build homes that can survive any storm. In a small town, there lived a boy named Ethan. He had a big dream. He wanted to make his parents proud, get into a top school, and completely change the direction of his life. Every single night, he'd watch motivational videos, save inspiring quotes, and tell himself, "Tomorrow I'll study for 6 hours. Tomorrow I'll finally become the best version of me." That promise felt incredible until his alarm rang. Then, just like fog under the morning sun, the promise dissolved. Days melted into weeks. His grand plans turned into guilt. Ethan's confidence shrank. He started to wonder, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just stick with it? One afternoon, he ran into his friend Ben by the old town bridge. Ben seemed different, calmer, like he was living in a more peaceful world. He woke up early, studied on time, exercised, and just kept getting better, bit by bit. Ethan had to ask, "How do you stay so motivated all the time?" Ben just smiled. "I don't," he said. "I stay disciplined." "But isn't motivation the key to everything?" Ethan asked, confused. Ben shook his head. "Meet me at the river tomorrow before sunrise. I want to show you something." The next morning, the sky was still a deep, dark blue when they arrived. An old fisherman was sitting on a wooden box, his hands as rough as river stones, but his eyes were gentle and steady. "You're early," the old man said with a nod. "That's a good beginning." They watched the river breathe a cold mist into the air. "I come here every day, at the exact same time," the fisherman explained. "Summer or winter, storm or calm. Some days, I return with my nets full. Some days, I come back with nothing at all. But if I only came when I felt like it, my family would go hungry. I don't wait for motivation. I trust my discipline." He then pointed to a bamboo grove growing on the riverbank. "Do you know how bamboo grows? For years you see absolutely nothing. You water it, you wait, and people might even laugh at you. Then, all at once, in a single season, it shoots up taller than a house. Those quiet years weren't empty. The roots were building their strength underground. Discipline works the exact same way." Something shifted inside Ethan. He realized he'd been chasing lightning when what he really needed was a steady flame. On his way home, he bought a plain blue notebook. On the very first page, he wrote just 3 simple lines. After breakfast, study for 10 minutes. After lunch, move my body for 10 minutes. Before bed, write 3 lines about what I did right today. No heroics, no 6-hour study marathons. Just a simple loop he knew he could complete even on his worst day. Day 1 felt almost too easy. By day 3, his mind tried to bargain with him. "Just skip today. It's only 10 minutes. But then Ethan heard the fisherman's voice in his head. "I don't wait for motivation." He opened the book, did his 10 minutes, and drew a small check mark. He whispered to himself, "Promise kept." The words felt like a warm coin in his pocket. Weeks passed. Something invisible began to grow, trust. Not the loud, flashy kind you post about online, but the quiet, solid kind you earn in private when nobody is watching. Those 10 minutes of studying sometimes turned into 20, because momentum is generous to those who simply begin. On other days, he stopped right at 10 minutes and felt proud, not guilty. The promise wasn't about being perfect, it was about being consistent. On rainy Saturday, he faced a real test. His cousins invited him to a game, but he'd promised himself he would review a chapter first. The old Ethan would have said, "I'll do it later." The new Ethan asked a different question. What keeps the promise? He set a timer for 10 minutes, read one section, checked the box in his notebook, and then ran out the door laughing. He discovered a powerful secret. Discipline doesn't steal your freedom, it gives it back. You enjoy life more when you're not constantly running from a broken promise to yourself. Of course, life pushed back. Exams were approaching, money was tight at home, and the whole house felt heavy with worry. One night, Ethan snapped. "I can't keep this up," he said, throwing his notebook on the bed. But then he remembered the bamboo. He didn't need to grow a whole forest tonight. He just needed to water the roots. He picked up the pen and wrote 3 lines. "I showed up. I read a page. I kept the chain." He underlined the word kept. The knot in his chest loosened. He went back to the river to thank the fisherman. A tiny sapling had pushed through the soil near the dock. "What's that?" Ethan asked. "An oak," the fisherman replied. "Looks weak now, but one day boats will tie their ropes to it." The fisherman then drew 2 circles on a scrap of paper. One was small and bright, the other was large and plain. "This bright circle," he said, "is motivation. It flares up and then it fades. This plain circle is discipline. It looks boring, but it surrounds your life with reliability. And reliability beats brilliance every time a storm arrives." He wrote 4 words beneath the circles: cue, action, count, celebrate. Pick a cue, the same time or trigger each day. Keep the action tiny, count your reps, and celebrate the completion. That simple loop can rewire your entire life. So Ethan deepened his loop. Cue, after breakfast open the book. Action, read 1 page minimum. Count, make 1 check mark. Celebrate, close the book, exhale, and say, "Promise kept." He repeated this loop for movement and for journaling. He even added a kindness loop. Send 1 text of gratitude each night. Discipline in one area of his life quietly began to lift all the others. The results didn't explode, they accumulated. A teacher noticed his focus was steadier. A friend asked why he seemed so much calmer. Then one evening, his dad, who was usually quiet, put a hand on his shoulder at dinner and said, "I'm proud of how you're showing up." Ethan felt a slow, honest pride. Not the pride of being the best, but the pride of being faithful to his word. On the morning of his hardest exam, his nerves were rattling the windows of his mind. What if I blank? What if I fail? The old panic tried to pull him under. He opened his blue notebook and traced the long chain of check marks. Day after day, promise after promise. He realized something profound. Confidence doesn't come from telling yourself you're great. It comes from proving to yourself that you'll show up. He walked into that classroom with a quiet strength. He didn't score perfectly, but he scored solidly. More importantly, he didn't collapse afterward. He went home, honored his 10-minute routine, and kept the chain alive. Success wasn't an event anymore. It was a rhythm. Months later, Ethan returned to the river with coffee and warm bread. The fisherman was mending a net. "See this?" he said, lifting the mesh. "It looks like one piece, but it's 1,000 knots, tied one after the other. That's discipline. You tie one knot today, another tomorrow. Soon, you have something strong enough to carry your future." Ethan looked at the river, how it just kept moving, whether anyone was there to applaud it or not. He thought about his little blue notebook, how small it was, but how heavy it felt in his hand now, heavy with evidence, heavy with trust. Here's what you can take with you today. You don't rise to the level of your motivation, you fall to the level of your systems. So build a system you can keep even on your worst day. Start like this. Pick one promise you can keep in 10 minutes or less. Attach it to a cue that already exists in your day, right after breakfast, right after lunch, or just before bed. Track it with a simple mark on a piece of paper. Paper never lies. And end with a tiny celebration. Say the words, "Promise kept," smile and close the loop. Expect boredom, expect resistance, expect life to test you. And when it does, remember the fisherman's law. Storms don't change the time I throw the net. Show up anyway, especially the day after a failure. Show up. That's how you teach your brain that your word is stronger than your mood. If this story gave you a little strength today, share it with someone who's tired of always starting over. And if you want more stories that turn small daily actions into unshakable confidence, subscribe now. Not for motivation that fades, but for the discipline that lasts. Turn the page. Keep the promise. Your future self is already thanking you.